There. Any moment now. We are live. We are live.
Hello, hello, and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Beena. Good morning, Beena. Good morning.
How you are perceiving the world today?
I'm perceiving it very mournessly and somewhat slowly than usual.
Good.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah, just because I'm a little lethargic, but I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited actually in what we're doing. You know, in terms of us being here. This is
Exactly.
I'm really
Exactly.
enjoying the reading and getting up
I'm
to
also
chapter
enjoying this,
3.
not only because
So,
that of the newness for me, but also because that we are doing this together, and you are providing me a lot of context, and you
uh,
are giving me hints, or not actually hints, direct direction also sometimes that
uh,
this is something to pay attention to, because the way you are extracting things from that and using these as a quote and
uh,
saving it, it is an emphasis. By doing so, of
yes,
course, my mind also
uh,
shift onto that. And a lot of things what Don Juan is saying now, um, they are connecting and sorting and kind of like giving a resolution, not a resolution needed,
yes,
but a kind of sorting the previous already existing perspectives and some questions also. So like yesterday's was really brilliant. 2 points were there, and I was like, wow, okay, now it is making sense. My mind is still keeping it as an open question that one can actually uh, have an ally if they really want to. That is something like
correct,
this level
correct.
of choice and this level of freedom and this level of ability.
Uh,
If one can acquire, this is something truly brilliant. I assume
uh,
that there must be some conditions, some sort of eligibility involved into that. That once you can, you are this, and then you can do that. Not in any spiritual practice, but just being honest, or maybe just being thorough, so something
yeah.
like that. I'm
It's through
assuming that.
intent. It's through intent. Yeah.
Yes. So this is something very, very interesting for me. What they're doing, again, sometimes when we do, yes, on regular basis, not sometimes. When we do capital R reading, the magic of capital R reading is that you not only pay attention to the local, like what the current, what the person is saying, or saying in it in exactly in which words, selection of words, the choice of words, how they are articulating their sentences, and how they are articulating the whole incident, the details involved into that, the way they are addressing each other, the characters. These things, of course, we pay attention to that, but also we pay attention to the abstract. In this capital R reading, what is happening, one step going further. Yes, we are paying attention to the local, what Carlos Castaneda is sharing. Of course, we are paying attention to what Don Juan might be saying, because we are going through from via Carlos' understanding. So we are trying to understand what Don Juan might be
Yeah.
saying. But there is more into that, because the third steps now coming in is that those things which they are using, like mescalito or peyote, without getting into any bias or being judgmental, negatively judgmental about these things, that, oh, these are drugs and all sort of things. I'm trying to understand that how these people were actually being very beneficial and actually doing a favor to to the coming, of course, future generation by actually experimenting those things. I
Oh,
really admire
absolutely.
them that
Oh,
they were the one
absolutely.
courageous one
Oh,
who actually
absolutely.
experimented.
Pathfinders. Yes, yes.
Yes, and now we
Great
have we
deal.
have we have their experiences. So now we can make choices. Okay, either we have to go.
Yeah,
It is exactly like scientists who were inventing things. They have been
yeah,
experimenting and continuously doing research and all that, and now we are getting the benefits of it. So far, I'm taking it as something that someone has been actually taking a lot of risk and putting themselves into completely unknown things, and and sharing their experiences. And this is something really profound for them.
Unfortunately,
Yes.
we've developed a massively distorted perception, awareness, idea, and belief regarding drugs. It's just this whole war on drugs thing. I mean, people take drugs every single day. You got a headache, you take drugs. Now drugs are all right?
Yes.
And furthermore, so, yeah, but it's bad for your health. Well, why is it? But it's nice, it's fun, but yeah, it's bad for your health. Okay, well, fine. Well, then, very old people, why can't they take drugs? Why is it illegal for them?
Yes.
Surely, once you get over the average age, right? Okay, so average age for a male to live is, I don't know what, let's say 80 years old. If you get past 80, well, fine, then take as many drugs as you like. You're in bonus time now. You see my point? But that's not the logic, because it's gotten this taint to it, this idea, and it's not logical. There's no real logic to it. Of course, hallucinogens, psychedelics, and any kind of a drug. I mean, there are other drugs that give you just lots of energy, whatever. They're all tools, and they come at a cost, like any tool. I mean, alcohol, right? Oh, most of the world is okay with alcohol, but take too much of it, and you got a problem. Most of the world is okay with milk. Drink too much milk, and you get hives. Most of the world is okay with bread. Eat too much bread, and well, they also have problems, right? End up with constipation, whatever. Right? So there's anything in excess, anything inappropriately used is inappropriate. And that's the point. It's about appropriateness. And we're forgetting this, right? So drugs have this evil connotation. Yes, it's this and that and doing stuff, but there's nothing evil about it. It's simply a tool. And Don Juan, absolutely, to him, it's a tool. And we're going to see today how he has, well, he's got a preference, and it's why he says there are negatives to these things. And later he'll explain more in the later books. He'll go into detail about the cost involved, right? And it's very, very important. So Don Juan has an appropriate perspective. Carlos, at this point, is on the one hand very enamored with drugs, and on the other hand very scared of them also. He has a very complicated perspective on it. I mean, he wants to study it. He thinks it's all cool and everything because that's the era he's in, but also he doesn't want to take it himself. He's kind of conservative in a way on it. So yeah, it's pretty fascinating how that works out. All right, so let's get going. Let's get going.
I personally feel that yes, other than um, all these excuses about drugs, most is the system they are following. So that might be the reason.
Say that again. You cut out there. I didn't hear.
Oh, so I was just saying that mostly I feel that underneath these whole excuses and is that people feel scared might collapse the system,
Yeah.
and that
Well,
that collapse of
yeah. I mean, when it comes
the
to things like
system is
this,
really frightening for them. Predictable, you will not follow things.
yeah. Well, also, people don't have self-discipline, and of course, they get addicted, and they get in over their heads, and they don't have no self-control, etc. So, if you're going to utilize things like this, you need to have impeccability first, like everything else,
Exactly,
right? Otherwise, you're going
exactly,
to get into trouble with it. I mean, just look at the trouble people get into with alcohol,
exactly.
or with food. People overeat and have obesity issues, and that's just some very basic thing in life.
Yes, yes,
See, so when you've got psychological problems, anything can be a problem. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, people get obsessions and they get addicted to all sorts of things. Their hobbies, you know, habits, OCD, all sorts of things. All right, let's go, Beena. I might have to read. We'll see. Because when you were talking there again you cut out, but it was clear in the beginning, and then halfway through your thing you dropped off. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. You just do one more sharing here. Hold on. Share it. But you don't see Norma. I don't think Norma is online.
It is happening specifically on Zoom and Facebook. So yes, please, you read today.
All right. I'm gonna share it to Norma. But yeah, I mean, again, I want to emphasize, we are immersed in the Don Juan calls them power plants, right? And their effects, right? And these particular power plants, they the two that he's focusing on here, they have more particularness to them, and so he calls them allies, right? Because they do things for you, and there's a moreness to it. But so this whole immersion, the three of them, right? Three power plants here. Well, peyote, Jimson weed, and the mushroom. But what I want to say is that this is not the value of reading Carlos or Don Juan. You can,
Yes.
and I've done this, and in the file that I'm creating, I'm not copying there anything or very little about the plants. I'm not interested because I cannot use it. I don't have access to Don Juan's knowledge, his expertise, or to a Don Juan. I mean, I suppose I could go out and find somebody, but in my day-to-day living, no, I don't have access to this. Right? So therefore, I have to say, unless I get into a situation where I do have it, then maybe. But is it absolutely necessary? No, it's not, as we'll discover later on. Right? And this is a big deal. So I don't want to, get lost in the power plant side of things. As fascinating as it is, it's not the focus. Right? And when we look at this file that I'm pulling out here of the quote file, right? And I've done this before many years ago, and I rearranged it, put in all the stuff. I did a lot of work on this, right? Then when you start to see all these, the non-drug related or power plant related stuff, right? Now you start to see, wow, there's a massive wealth of value that's useful, right? And in my own work, I've taken this further, right? As I explained when it comes to attunement and anomalies, just in that one aspect, just in those two terms, attunement and anomalies, right there, and capital T, trust. I mean, this is a huge extension. It makes a massive difference to the entirety, especially understanding Don Juan and where he comes from, right? Everything is attunement, as we'll see, So there's a moreness, that we are going to connect to. And I want to say that moreness has nothing to do with the power plants, right? And even the allies, the other allies that come in later on, those again, not available. All right, here we go. Well, you read, Beena. Let's see how it works. Maybe it's better now.
Okay. Try. Chapter 3. In the more than 2 years that elapsed between the time Don Juan decided to teach me about the ally powers and the time he thought I was ready to learn about them in the pragmatic, participatory form he considered as learning, he gradually denned general features of the two allies in question. He prepared me for the indispensable corollary of all the verbalizations and the consolidation of all the teachings, the state of non-ordinary reality. At first, he talked about the ally powers in a very casual manner. The first references I have in my notes are interjected between other topics of conversation. Wednesday, 23rd August, 1961. The Devil's Weed, Jimson Weed.
Okay, let's read alternating this. This is a long conversation here, so let's alternate.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
The Devil's Weed, Jimson Weed, was my benefactor's ally. It could have been mine also, but I didn't like her.
Why didn't you like the Devil's Weed, Don Juan?
She has a serious drawback.
Is she inferior to other ally powers?
No, don't get me wrong. She is as powerful as the best of allies, but there is something about her which I personally don't like.
Can you tell me what it is?
She distorts men. She gives them a taste of power too soon without fortifying their hearts and makes them domineering and unpredictable. She makes them weak in the middle of their great power.
Isn't there any way to avoid that?
There is a way to overcome it, but not to avoid it. Whoever becomes the weed's ally must pay that price.
How can one overcome that effect, Don Juan?
The devil's weed has four heads: the root, the stem and leaves, the flowers and the seeds. Each one of them is different, and whoever becomes an ally must learn about them in that order. The most important head is in the roots. The power of the devil's weed is conquered through the roots. The stem and leaves are the head that cures maladies, properly used. This head is a gift to mankind. The third head is in the flowers, and it is used to turn people crazy, or to make them obedient, or to kill them. The man whose ally is the weed and never intakes the flowers, nor does he intake the stem or leaves, for that matter, except in cases of his own illness. But the roots and the seeds are always intact, especially the seeds. They are the fourth head of the devil's head, devil's weed, and the most powerful of the four. My benefactor used to say the seeds are the sober head, the only part that could fortify the heart of man. The devil's weed is hard on her proteges, he used to say, because she aims to kill them fast, the things she ordinarily accomplishes before they can arrive at the secrets of the sober head. There are, however, tales about men who have unraveled the secrets of the sober head. What a challenge for a man of knowledge.
Did your benefactor unravel such secrets?
No, he didn't.
Have you met anyone who has done it?
No, but they lived at the time when that knowledge was important.
Do you know anyone who has met such men?
No, I don't.
Oh, did your benefactor know anyone?
He did.
Why didn't he arrive at the secrets of the sober head?
To tame the devil's weed into an ally is one of the most difficult tasks I know. She never became one with me, for example, perhaps because I was never fond of her.
Can you still use her as an ally in spite of not being fond of her?
I can. Nevertheless, I prefer not to. Maybe it will be different for you.
Why is it called the devil's weed?
You read this. You read
Don Juan made a gesture of indifference, shrugged his shoulders, and remained quiet for some time. Finally, he said that devil's weed was her temporary name. So nombre de leche.
We can leave out the Spanish things. They don't add anything for us. Yeah.
He also said there were other names for the devil's weed, but they were not to be used because the calling of a name was a serious matter, especially if one was learning to tame an ally power. I asked him why the calling of a name was so serious a matter. He said names were reserved to be used only one was calling for help in moments of great stress and need, and he assured me that such moments happen sooner or later in the life of whoever seeks knowledge.
Wow.
Sunday, 3rd September 1961. Today, during the afternoon, Don Juan collected 2 datura plants from the field. Quite unexpectedly, he brought the subject of the devil's weed into our conversation. and then asked me to go with him to the hills and look for one. We drove to the nearby mountains. I got a shovel out of the trunk and walked into one of the canyons. He walked for quite a while, wading through the chaparral, which grew thick in the soft, sandy dirt. He stopped next to a small plant with dark green leaves and big, whitish, bell-shaped flowers. This one, he said. Immediately, he started to shovel. I tried it. I tried to help him, but he refused with a strong shake of the head and went on to dig a circular hole around the plant, a hole shaped like a cone deep toward the outer edge and sloping into a mound in the center of the circle. When he stopped digging, he knelt close to the stem and with his fingers cleared the soft dirt around it, uncovering about 4 inches of a big tuberous forked root whose width contrasted markedly with the width of the stem, which was frail in comparison. Don Juan looked at me and said the plant was a male because the root forked out from the exact point where it joined the stem. Then he stood up and started to walk away, looking for something. What are you looking for, Don Juan?
I
I
want to
want to
find a
find a
stick.
stick.
Oh, all right, never mind.
Sorry. Okay. I began to look around, but he stopped me.
Not you. You sit over there.
He pointed to some rocks 20 feet away.
I will find it.
He came back after a while with a long, dry branch, using it as a digging stick. He loosened the dirt carefully along two diverging branches of the root. He cleaned around them to a depth of approximately 2 feet. As he dug deeper, the dirt became so hard packed that it was practically impossible to penetrate it with the stick. He came to a halt and sat down to catch his breath. I sat next to him. We did not talk for a long time. Why don't you dig it out with the shovel? I asked.
It could cut and injure the plant. I had to get a stick that belonged to this area so that if I had struck the root, the injury wouldn't have been as bad as one caused by a shovel or a foreign object.
What kind of a what kind of a stick did you get?
Any dry branch of the Palo Verde tree would do. If there are no dry branches, you have to cut a fresh one.
Can you use the branches of any other tree?
I told you, only Palo Verde and not any other.
Why is that? Why is that so, Don Juan?
Because the devil's weed has very few friends. The Palo Verde is the only tree in this area which agrees with her. The only thing that grabs or hooks onto it. If you damage the root with a shovel, she will not grow for you when you replant her. But if you injure her with such a stick, chances are the plant will not even feed it.
What are you going to do with the root now?
I'm going to cut it. You must leave me. Go find another plant and wait until I call you.
Don't you want me to help you?
You may help me only if I ask you.
I walked away and started to look for another plant in order to fight the strong desire to sneak around and watch him. After some time, he joined me.
Let us look for a female now.
I said, how do you tell them apart?
The female is taller and grows above the ground, so it really looks like a small tree. The male is large and spreads out near the ground and looks more like a big bush. Once we dig the female out, we will see it as a single root going for quite a way before it becomes a fork. The male, on the other hand, has a forked root joined at the stem.
We looked together through the field of daturas.
Yeah, where'd you go? Then, pointing to a plant, he said, "That's a female." And he proceeded to dig it out as he had done the other. As soon as he had cleared the root, I was able to see that the root conformed to his prediction. It wasn't a prediction, he knows what it is. He's not predicting the root is going to be that way, Carlos. Come on now, seriously. He knows it from experience, not a prediction. It's like, this trust of superiority paradigm, right? I mean, they assume people lie in general, and they assume that people make up stories, right? It's terrible. Come on. I'll be in a drop. All right. I left him again when he was about to cut. Well, Beena will come back. Oh, yeah. Nah, no worries, Norma. No worries. No worries. All right. Sorry. Let's take care of Norma there real quick. When we got to his house, he opened the bundle in which he had put the datura plants. He took the larger one, the male, first and washed it in a big metal tray. Very carefully scrubbed all the dirt from the root, stem, and leaves. After that meticulous cleaning, he severed the stem from the root by making a superficial incision around the width of their juncture with a short serrated knife and by cracking them apart. He took the stem and separated every part of it by making individual heaps with leaves, flowers, and the prickly seed pods. He threw away everything that was dry or had been spoiled by worms, and kept only those parts that were complete. He tied together the two branches of the root with two pieces of string, cracked them in half after making a superficial cut at the joint, and got two pieces of root of equal size. He then took a piece of rough burlap cloth and placed in it first the two pieces of root tied together. On top of them, he put the leaves in a neat bunch, then the flowers, the seed pods, and the stem. He folded the burlap and made a knot for the corners. He repeated exactly the same steps with the other plant, the female, except that when he got to the root, instead of cutting it, he left the fork intact, like an upside-down letter Y. Then he placed all the parts in another cloth bundle. When he finished, it was already quite dark. Wednesday, 6 September 1961. Today, in the late afternoon, we returned to the topic of the devil's weed. Are you here, Beena? Are you here, Beena?
Yes, yes.
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, you read again, and then I'll just read the Don Juan parts.
Okay.
I think
Today,
we should start
late in the afternoon. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. I think we should start with that weed again.
Don Juan said suddenly. After a polite silence, I asked him, "What are you going to do with the plants?"
The plants I dug out and cut are mine. It is as though they were myself. With them, I am going to teach you the way to tame the devil's weed.
How will you do that?
The devil's weed is divided into portions. Each one of these portions is different. Each has its unique purpose and service.
He opened his left hand and measured on the floor from the tip of his thumb and the tip of his fourth finger. This is my portion. You will measure yours with your own hand. Now to establish dominion over the devil's weed. You must begin by taking the first portion of the root. But since I have brought you to her, you must take the first portion of the root of my plant. I have measured it for you. So it is really my portion that you must take at the beginning.
That was Don Juan, not Carlos, by the way.
Yes, yes.
That's all right. All right, keep going.
He went inside the house and brought out one of the bundles. He sat down and opened it. I noticed it was the male plant. I also noticed there was only one piece of root. He took the piece that was left from the original too and held it in front of my face.
This is your first portion. I give it to you. I have cut it myself for you. I have measured it as my own. Now I give it to you.
For an instant, the thought that I would have to chew it like a carrot crossed my mind. But he placed it inside a small white cotton bag. He walked to the back of the house. He sat there on the floor with his legs crossed, and with a round manno began to mash the root inside the bag. Wow. He worked it over a flat slab which served as a mortar. From time to time, he washed the two stones and kept the water in a small, flat wooden dugout basin. As he pounded, he sang an unintelligible chant, very softly and monotonously. When he had mashed the root into a soft pulp inside the bag, he placed it in the wooden basin. He again placed the slab mortar and the pestle into the basin, filled it with water, and then carried it to a the son of carried it to son of rectangular pig's trough set against. Yes, sort of. Yes, exactly. Sort of rectangular pig's trough set against the back fence. He said the root had to soak all night and had to be left outside the house so it would catch the night air.
If tomorrow is a sunny, hot day, it will be an excellent omen.
Sunday, 10th September 1961. Thursday, 7th September was a very clear and hot day. Don Juan seemed very pleased with the good omen and repeated several times that the devil's weed had probably liked me. The root had soaked all night, and about 10 a.m. we walked to the back of the house. He took the basin out of the trough, placed it on the ground, and sat next to it. He took the bag and rubbed it on the bottom of the basin. He held it a few inches above the water and squeezed it. Contents then dropped the bag into the water.
And squeezed its contents.
Yes, and squeezed its content, then dropped the bag into the water. He repeated the same sequence 3 more times, then discarded the bag, tossing it into the trough, and left the basin in the hot sun. We came back to it 2 hours later. He brought with him a medium-sized kettle with boiling yellowish water. He tipped the basin very carefully and emptied the top water, preserving the thick silt that had accumulated, or salt accumulated on the bottom. He poured the boiling water on the silt and left the basin in the sun again. The sequence was repeated 3 times at intervals of more than an hour. Finally, he poured out most of the water from the basin, tipped it to the angle to catch the late afternoon sun, and left it. When we returned hours later, it was dark. On the bottom of the basin, there was a layer of gummy substance. It resembled a batch of half-cooked starch, whitish or light gray. There was perhaps a full teaspoon of it. He took the basin inside the house, and while he put some water onto the boil, I picked out pieces of dirt the wind had blown into the silt. He laughed at me. Please.
That little dirt won't hurt anybody.
When the water was boiling, he poured about a cup of it into the basin. It was the same yellowish water he had used before. It dissolved the silt, making sort of milky substance. What kind of water is that, Don Juan?
Water of fruits and flowers from the canyon.
He emptied the content of the basin into an old clay mug that looked like a flower pot. It was still very hot, so he blew on it to cool it. He took a sip and handed me the mug.
Drink now.
I took it automatically and without deliberation drank all the water. It tasted somewhat bitter, although the bitterness was hardly noticeable. What was very outstanding was the pungent odor of the water. It smelled like cockroaches.
I wonder
Almost,
how callers, hang on, how does callers know what cockroaches smell like? I've seen cockroaches, I've been in places with cockroaches, but I've never smelled them. Ants, yes.
I smell
Oh,
them,
with taste.
and I have a
Wow,
very serious allergy to that.
wow, wow, wow.
Yes.
Okay, okay, interesting. Again, I just, to me, it's just part of capital R reading and capital H hearing to notice things like that, right? Not just to accept things, right? To query. I'm not doubting policy necessarily. I'm just curious.
I don't know is it pungent or not, but the smell of cockroaches is very disgusting. But
Yeah.
almost immediately I began to sweat. I got very warm and blood rushed to my ears. I saw a red spot in front of my eyes, and the muscles of my stomach began to contract in painful cramps. After a while, even though I felt no more pain, I began to get cold and perspiration literally soaked me. Don Juan asked me if I saw blackness or black spots in front of my eyes. I told him I was seeing everything in red. My teeth were chattering because of an uncontrollable nervousness that came to me in waves, as if radiating out from the middle of my chest. Then he asked me if I was afraid. This question seemed meaningless to me. I told him that I was obviously afraid, but he asked me again if I was afraid of her. I did not understand what he meant, and I said yes. He laughed and said that I was not really afraid. He asked if I still saw red. All I was seeing was a huge red spot in front of my eyes. I felt better after a while. Gradually, the nervous spasm disappeared, leaving only an aching, pleasant tiredness and an intense desire to sleep. I couldn't keep my eyes open, although I could still hear Don Juan's voice. I fall asleep, but the sensation of my being submerged in a deep red persisted all night. I even had dreams in red. I woke up on Saturday about 3 p.m. I had slept almost 2 days. I had a mild headache and an upset stomach, and very sharp, intermittent pains in my intestine. Except for that, everything else was like an ordinary walking. I found Don Juan sitting in front of
Waking,
his house.
waking, waking, waking.
Sorry, waking. I found Don Juan sitting in front of his house, dozing. He smiled at me. Everything went
Everything.
fine the other night. Sorry?
I was going to read that. Yeah. So
Oh,
everything
sorry.
went fine the other night. You saw red, and that's all that is important.
What would have happened if I had not seen red?
You would have seen black, and that is a bad sign.
Why is it bad?
When a man sees black, it means he's not made for the devil's weed, and he vomits his entrails out, all green and black.
Would he die?
I don't think anyone would die, but he would be sick for a long time.
What happens to those who see red?
They do not vomit, and the root gives them an effect of pleasure, which means they are strong and of violent nature, something that the weed likes. That is the way she entices. The only bad point is that men end up as slaves to the devil's weed in return for the power she gives them. But those are matters over which we have no.
Yes, man lives only to.
Not for good or bad. So I think
Okay.
that's a quote. That's a quote for me to pull there, right?
Yes.
Man lives only to learn, and if he learns, it is because that is the nature of his lot, for good or bad. This is a point that Don Juan is another quote somewhere where he says, "It is our lot to learn, our lot in life to learn."
Yes.
What page was that on? I got the pages a bit wrong. See, these are the pages of the of the word processor, not the book pages. The book pages are on the left. There, see, 26. So I must remember to do that. So I missed some of them earlier. All right, 1, 6. And I guess this is just under general Warrior's Way. That's not a specific topic. And you'll see he calls this a Warrior's Way. He uses this word later on. But that's why I put it in there now, because it's sort of the overall theme. Like you would say, way of impeccability. I guess you can put it in there. Yep. All right. Where were we? Oh, top here. Why is this? Why is this different now? Where were we? Oh, here we go. Okay, sorry. All right, keep going, Beena.
Okay. What shall I do next, Don Juan?
Next, you must plant a shoot that I have cut from the other half of the first portion of root. You took half of it the other night, and now the other half must be put into the ground. It has to grow and seed before you can undertake the real task of taming the plant.
How will I tame her?
The devil's weed is tamed through the root, step by step. You must learn the secrets of each portion of the root. You must intake them in order to learn the secrets and conquer the power.
Are the different portions prepared in the same way you did the first one?
No, each portion is different.
What are the specific effect of each portion?
I already said, each teaches a different form of power. When you took what you took the other night is nothing yet. Anyone can do that. But only the brewer can take the deeper portions. I can't tell you what they do because I don't know yet whether she will take you. We must wait.
And will you tell me then?
Whenever your plant has grown and seeded.
If the first portion can be taken by anyone, what is it used for?
In a diluted form, it is good for all matters of manhood. Old people who have lost their vigor, or young men who are seeking adventures, or even women who want passion.
You said the root is used for power only, but I see it's used for other matters besides powers. Am I correct? He looked at me for a very long time with a steadfast gaze that embarrassed me. I felt my question had made him angry, but I couldn't understand why.
The weed is only used for power.
He finally said in a dry, stamped tone.
The man who wants his vigor back, the young people who seek to endure fatigue and hunger, the man who wants to kill another man, the woman who wants to be in heat, they all desire power, and the weed will give it to them.
Do you feel you like her?
Oh, that was me. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Do you feel you like her?
He asked after a pause. I feel a strange vigor, I said. And it was true. I had noticed it on awakening and I felt it then. It was a very peculiar sensation of discomfort, of frustration. My whole body moved and stretched with unusual lightness and strength. My arms and legs itched. My shoulders seemed to swell. The muscles of my back and neck made me feel like pushing or rubbing against trees. I felt I could demolish a wall by ramming it. We did not speak anymore. We sat on the porch for a while.
All right, so look at the sensation of what Carlos feels. Can you imagine any BMN feeling this and what the result would be?
Oh, yes.
Disastrous. Because not all BMNs are bullies or aggressive. Sometimes they are very wimpy, but they're still BMNs. And they rely on underhandedness to get what they want. Right? Passive aggressiveness, all sorts of things. But they can be very anonymous, and they can be the most wimpy of people, but still be BMNs, right? And they basically will be sneaky and underhanded. But if they feel like this, they'll become bullies in a moment, right?
Oh, yes. Oh,
right? And that's why this the devil's weed is called the devil's weed, because it makes you into a devil, right? And if you have that tendency in the first place, this is just going to absolutely corrupt you, right? I mean, that's just for any narcissist, that feeling that Carlos described there, absolutely the worst possible thing, right?
yes. We did not speak anymore. We sat on the porch for a while. I noticed that Don Juan was falling asleep. He nodded a couple of times, then he simply stretched his legs, lay on the floor with his hands behind his head, and went to sleep. I got up and went to the back of the house where I burned up my extra physical energy by clearing away the debris. I remembered his
Debris,
mention
debris, silent
debris.
S, debris.
uh, Debris. I remembered his mentioning that he would like me to help him clean up at the back of his house. Later, when he woke up and came to the back, I was more relaxed. We sat down to eat, and in the course of the meal, he asked me 3 times how I felt. Since this was a rarity, I finally asked, "Why do you worry about how I feel, Don Juan? Do you expect me to have a bad reaction from drinking the juice?" He laughed. I thought I was acting like a mischievous boy who has
No,
set
no,
up.
no, 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 no. I thought he was.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I thought he was acting like a mischievous boy who has set up a prank and checks for time to time, from time to time for the results. Still laughing, he said.
You don't look sick. A while ago, you even talked rough to me.
I did not, Don Paul. I protested. I don't ever recall talking to you like that. I was very serious on that point because I don't remember that I had ever felt annoyed with him.
You came out in her defense.
In whose defense?
You were defending the devil's wheel. You sounded like a lover already.
I was going to protest even more vigorously about it, but I stopped myself. I really did not realize I was defending her.
Of course you did not. You don't even remember what you said, do you?
No, I don't. I must admit it.
You see, the devil's wheel is like that. She sneaks up on you like a woman. You are not even aware of it. All you care about is that she makes you feel good and powerful. The muscles swelling with vigor, the fist clenching, the soles of the feet burning to run somebody down. When a man knows her, he really becomes full of cravings. My benefactor used to say that the devil's weed keeps men who want power and gets rid of those who can't handle it. But power was more common then. It was sought more avidly. My benefactor was a powerful man, and according to what he told me, his benefactor in turn was even more given to the pursuits of power. But in those days, there was good reason to be powerful. Now, we're talking about days where uh, we don't have our modern law and order, right? So much, yeah? Things so much wilder and much more of a feudal age, right? And especially in the age of Don Juan's benefactor and Don Juan's benefactor's benefactor. Uh, their names are Nawal Julian, and then his benefactor, in other words, like the grandfather, was the Nawal Elias, right? So going back to Elias's time, we're going back quite a long time now already, right? We're going back
Mm.
into the 1800s even, yeah. So this is it's quite far back, and in those times, especially the church had a lot of power, and the superiority paradigm was wildly rampant, and that just was the only way things were. In our day and age, yes, it's still very prevalent. Of course, it's still the paradigm, but it's not so blatant. Yes, it's not about pure physical power. Yes, and people dominating through force. Now, the domination and the power comes through other ways, right? Economics and theories and ideas and stuff like this, right? I mean, look at all those trolls on the internet. All about power, right? All those conspiracy
Yes.
theorists, same thing, all about
Oh,
power,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So it was a different age, and you can see how this learning of all these details, why people did all this research, because obviously to get to all that detailed knowledge with all those detailed steps, That would take a lot of iterations of trial and error, some serious experimenting and testing and trying out, right? I mean, so you have to be really, really, really bent on power. And well, back in the day of physical violence, people fighting each other all the time, if you have this edge, you've got a massive, massive advantage, right? And you're not a victim. So there's a big, big reason for this, right? And you will see later in the older part of the lineage, even his benefactor and his benefactor's benefactor, they are actually still part of the modern lineage, not actually because there's a shift that happened. And the older lineage, it's all about power, right? It's all about this kind of stuff. But they evolve, and they later we'll see that he says in the modern lineage they actually let go of these things, right? It's still part of their lineage, but it's not the emphasis, right?
Okay. Can you tell me why, Don Juan?
No, do you think there's no reason for the power nowadays?
Do you think there is no reason for power nowadays?
Power is all right for you now. You are young. You are not an Indian. Perhaps the devil's weed would be in good hands. You seem to have liked it, made you feel strong. I felt all that myself, and yet I didn't like
Can you tell me why Don Juan?
it. I don't like its power. There is no use for it anymore. In other times, like those my benefactor told me about, there was reason to seek power. Men performed phenomenal deeds, were admired for their strength and feared and respected for their knowledge. My benefactor told me stories of truly phenomenal deeds that were performed long, long ago. But now we, the Indians, do not seek that power anymore. Nowadays, the Indians use the weed to rub themselves. They use the leaves and flowers for other matters. They even say it cures their boils, but they do not seek its power. A power that acts like a magnet, more potent and more dangerous to handle as the root goes deeper into the ground. When one arrives to a depth of 4 yards, and they say some people have, one finds the seat of permanent power, power without end. Very few humans have done this in the past, and nobody has done it today. I'm telling you, the power of the devil's weed is no longer needed by us, the Indians. Little by little, I think we have lost interest, and now power does not matter anymore. I myself do not seek it, and yet at one time, when I was your age, I too felt it swelling inside me. I felt the way you did today, only 500 times more strongly. I killed a man with a single blow of my arm. Wow. I could toss boulders, huge boulders, not even 20 men could budge. Once I jumped so high, I chopped the top leaves of the highest trees. But it was all for nothing. All I did was frighten the Indians, only the Indians. The rest, who knew nothing about it, did not believe it. They saw either a crazy Indian or something moving at the top of the trees. And it's a very important point here. It's about perception. If you don't believe, you don't see. Very fascinating. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a very common theme with perception, and we can see it in our daily lives if we pay attention.
Yes. We were silent for a long time. I needed to say something. It was different when there were people in the world. Oh, sorry. Please continue.
Ah, it was different when there were people in the world. People who knew a man could become a mountain lion or a bird, or that a man could simply fly. So I don't use devil's weed anymore. For what? Frighten the Indians?
And I saw him sad, and a deep empathy filled me. I wanted to say something to him, even if it was a platitude. Perhaps, someone, that is the fate of all men who want to know. Thursday, 23rd November 1961. I didn't see Don Juan sitting on his porch as I drove. I thought it was strange. I called to him out loud, and his daughter-in-law came out of the house. He's inside, she said. I found he had dislocated his ankle. Several weeks before, he had made his own cast by soaking the strips of cloth in a mush made with cactus and powdered bone. The strips wrapped tightly, around his ankle and dried into a light, streamlined cast. It had the hardness of plaster, but not its bulkiness. How did it happen? I asked. His daughter-in-law, a Mexican woman from Yucatan, who was tending him, answered me. It was an accident. He fell and nearly broke his foot. Don Juan laughed and waited until the woman had left the house before answering.
Accident, my eye. I have an enemy nearby, a woman, La Catalina. She pushed me during a moment of weakness and I fell.
Why did she do that?
She wanted to kill me, that's why.
Was she here with you?
Yes,
Why did you let her in?
I didn't. She flew in.
I beg your pardon?
She's a blackbird and so effective at that, I was caught by surprise. She has been trying to finish me off for a long time, for a long while. This time she got real close.
Did you say she's a blackbird? I mean, she's a bird?
Is she a bird? Yeah. There
Is
you
she a
go again
bird?
with your questions. She's a blackbird, the same way I'm a crow. Am I a man or a bird? I'm a man who knows how to become a bird. But going back to La Catalina, she's a fiendish witch. Her intent to kill me is so strong that I can hardly fight her off. The blackbird came all the way into my house and I couldn't stop it.
Can you become a bird, Don Juan?
Yes, but that's something we'll take up later.
Why does she want to kill you?
Oh, there's an old problem between us. It got out of hand and now it looks as if I will have to finish her off before she finishes me.
Are you going to use witchcraft? I asked with great expectations.
You see, King Carlos reveals himself. Don't be silly. No witchcraft would ever work on her. I have other plans. I'll tell you about them someday.
Can your ally protect you from her?
No, the little smoke only tells me what to do. Then I must protect myself.
How about Mescalito? Can he protect you from her?
No, Mescalito is a teacher, not a power to be used for personal reasons.
How about the devil's weed?
I've already said that I must protect myself, following the directions of my ally, the smoke. And as far as I know, the smoke can do anything. If you want to know about any point in question, the smoke will tell you. And it will give you not only knowledge, but also the means to proceed. It's the most marvelous ally a man could have.
Is the smoke the best possible ally for everybody?
It's not the same for everybody. Many fear it and won't touch it or even get close to it. The smoke is like everything else. It wasn't made for all of us. Now you see again, we have to take this here, this whole part, and understand Don Juan's way of talking. If you don't realize that these absolutes aren't always absolute, then you can get it's the most marvelous ally a man could have. Now, yes, it's not absolute. In one way, it implies that it's for all men, but it's not necessarily. In other words, there's a condition that's not mentioned. It's the most marvelous ally a man could have if he can connect to it, if he likes it, if he's one with it, etc. Right? So this is common with Don Juan that we could easily get the wrong impression. Luckily Carlos asks this now, right? This is the best possible
Yes.
ally for everybody. And Don Juan says it's not the same for everybody. Many fear it and won't touch it, or even get close to it. The smoke is like everything else. It wasn't made for all of us.
What kind of smoke is it, Don Juan?
The smoke of the miners.
There was a noticeable reverence in his voice, a mood I had never detected before.
I will begin by telling you exactly what my benefactor said to me when he began to teach me about it. Although at that time, like yourself now, I couldn't possibly have understood. The devil's weed is for those who bid for power. The smoke is for those who want to watch and see. And in my opinion, the smoke is fearless. Once a man enters into its field, every other power is at his command. It's magnificent. Of course, it takes a lifetime. It takes years alone to become acquainted with its two vital parts, the pipe and the smoke mixture. The pipe was given to me by my benefactor, and after so many years of fondling it, it has become mine. It has grown into my hands. To turn it over to your hands, for instance, will be a real task for me and a great accomplishment for you. If we succeed, the pipe will feel the strain of being handled by someone else. And if one of us makes a mistake, there won't be any way to prevent the pipe from bursting open by its own force, or escaping from our hands to shatter, even if it falls on a pile of straw. If that ever happens, it would mean the end of us both, particularly of me. The smoke would turn against me in unbelievable ways.
This is the smoke's greatest property, its
No,
greatest
no, no,
gift.
yeah. How could
Oh,
it?
sorry. How could it turn against you if it's your ally? My question seemed to have altered his flow of thoughts. He didn't speak for a long time.
The difficulty of the ingredients makes the smoke mixture one of the most dangerous substances I know. No one can prepare it without being coached. It is deadly poisonous to anyone except the smoke's protege. Pipe and mixture ought to be treated with intimate care, and a man attempting to learn must prepare himself by leading a hard, quiet life. Its effects are so dreadful that only a very strong man can stand the smallest puff. Everything is terrifying and confusing at the outset, but every new puff makes things more precise. And suddenly the world opens up anew, unimaginable. When this happens, the smoke has become one's ally and will resolve any question by allowing one to enter into inconceivable worlds. This is the smoke's greatest property, its greatest gift, and it performs its function without hurting in the least. I call the smoke a true ally.
As usual, we were sitting in front of his house, where the dirt floor is always clean and packed hard. He suddenly got up and went inside the house. After a few moments, he returned with a narrow bundle and sat down again. This is.
This is my pipe.
He leaned over towards me and showed me a pipe he drew out of a sheath made of green canvas. It was perhaps 9 or 10 inches long. The stem was made of reddish wood. It was plain, without ornamentation.
Ornam- Ornamentation.
Ornamentation. Sorry. The bowl also seemed to be made
Bowl,
of.
bowl, bowl, bowl.
Sorry, the bowl also seemed to be made of wood, but it was rather bulky in comparison with the thin stem. It had a sleek finish and was dark gray, almost charcoal. He held the pipe in front of my face. I thought he was handing it over to me. I stretched out my hand to take it, but he quickly drew it back.
This pipe was given to me by my benefactor. In turn, I will pass it on to you. But first, you must get to know it. Every time you come here, I will give it to you. Begin by touching it. Hold it very briefly at first, until you and the pipe get used to each other. Then put it in your pocket, or perhaps inside your shirt, and finally put it in your mouth. All this should be done little by little in a slow, careful way. When this bond has been established, you will smoke from it. If you follow my advice and don't rush, the smoke may become your preferred ally too.
He handed me the pipe, but without letting go of it. I stretched my right arm towards it.
With both hands, he said.
I touched the pipe with both hands for a very brief moment. He did not
All right,
extend it to me.
yeah, 1 second there. Look at this just innately, right? If Don Juan had presented this incredible, precious, delicate thing to you, would you not naturally have put out both hands for something so precious and
Exactly.
almost sacred? But Carlos,
Yes.
like, You see, it's just inherent in his character. It's fascinating how he doesn't have that innate of the respect. So he has to learn these things. It's out there from a different world. It's very interesting, really. Very, very interesting.
Yes.
Anyway,
I touched the pipe with both hands for a very brief moment. He did not extend it to me all the way so that I could grasp it, but only far enough for me to touch it. Then he pulled it back.
the first step is to like the pipe. That takes time.
Can the pipe dislike me?
No, the pipe cannot dislike you, but you must learn to like it, so that when the time of the smoking comes for you, the pipe will help you to be unafraid.
What do you smoke, Don Juan?
This,
He opened his collar and exposed to view a small bag he kept under his shirt, which hung from his neck like a medallion. He brought it out, untied it, and very carefully poured some of its content into the palm of his hand. As far as I could tell, the mixture looked like finely shredded tea leaves, varying in color from dark brown to light green, with a few specks of bright yellow. He returned the mixture to the bag, closed the bag, tied it with a leather string, and put it under his shirt again. What kind of mixture is it?
there are lots of things in it. To get all the ingredients is a very difficult undertaking. One must travel afar. The little mushrooms needed to prepare the mixture grow only at certain times of the year and only in certain places.
Do you have a different mixture for each type of aid you need?
No, there is only one smoke, and there is no other like it.
He pointed to the bag hanging against his chest and lifted the pipe which was resting between his legs. These two
These
are
two,
one. Oh, sorry.
these two,
Sorry.
these two are one. One cannot go without the other. This pipe and the secret of this mixture belong to my benefactor. They will hand it down to him in the same way my benefactor gave them to me. The mixture, although difficult to prepare, is replenishable. The secret lies in its ingredients and in the way they are treated and mixed. The pipe, on the other hand, is a lifetime affair. It must be looked after with infinite care. It is hardy and strong, but it should never be struck or knocked about. It should be handled with dry hands, never when the hands are sweaty, and should be used only when one is alone, and no one, absolutely no one, should ever see it, unless you mean to give it to somebody. That is what my benefactor taught me, and that is the way I've dealt with this pipe all my life, with the pipe all my life.
What would happen if you should lose or break the pipe? He shook his head very slowly and looked at me.
I would die.
Are all the sorcerers quite like yours?
Not all of them have pipes like mine, but I know some.
Can you yourself make a pipe like this one? Don Juan? I insisted. Suppose you did not have it. How could you give me one if you wanted to do so?
If I didn't have the pipe, I could not, nor would I want to give one. I would give you something else instead.
He seemed to be somehow cross at me. He placed his pipe very carefully inside the sheath, which must have been lined with a soft material because the pipe, which fitted tightly, slid in very smoothly.
Listen,
He went inside the house to put his pipe away. Are you angry at me, Don Juan? I asked when he returned. He seemed surprised at my question.
no, I am never angry at anybody. No human being can do anything important enough for that. You get angry at people when you feel the acts are important. I don't feel that way any longer. This is a quote, and I feel this is a good place to end on, right?
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
this is a very good quote. No, I'm never angry at anybody. No human being can do anything important enough for that. You get angry at people when you feel their acts are important. I don't feel that way anymore. And this is very hard for Carlos to understand. This is very hard for Carlos to understand because, of course, Carlos thinks of himself as important and wants to be important. Yeah, right. But
This is, of course, it is difficult because we have a lot of connectivity and we want to deliberately stay connected with people in this manner, that their things actually affect us in many different ways. That's why we do get angry, because we also get pleased and happy by others. So eh, because ultimately the core is that our happiness or any emotion or feelings we have are coming from outside. This is something, of course, we are not there yet, where Don Juan is. He himself is so contented. So his happiness or his any emotion is coming from his own power, from himself, like his self. So that's a, of course, it's a different, very different state of being. There's something
it's
very
that
interesting.
independence of being.
Exactly, sir. Exactly. At the really at optimum point, independence of being. This is very interesting. Um,
Yeah.
one thing I'm
Also,
feeling really, yes. Oh, please continue.
no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just sharing just a fun story because just a day before starting this story, this book and capital R reading of Don Juan's books by Carlos Castaneda, I was aware that we are going to do that, but I had no idea, zero idea. I never looked at it, so I had zero idea about that. Okay, what it would be. And me and my sister Amy, we were walking on roof terrace, and suddenly we went to a far corner, and we were just watching outside and see, and suddenly I felt something, and there was an eagle was about to hit me, but a crow was chasing it, and I saw that crow uh, hitting on this eagle's head. And after that, after really hushing it away, the crow came back and sit there next to us, like 2, 3 feet away. And I said, "Thank you," because I saw that the crow really protected me. And now I saw
Isn't that
that I
amazing?
just read the story of a blackbird and a crow. John Juan was saying. So it is just I don't know that. Okay, it doesn't mean anything specific or special, but just a synchronicity of the word.
Yeah,
That
it's
was really
amazing.
amazing. I
Yeah. So
exactly saw that before
what did the
reading it.
birds do again? Say again what the two birds did.
The eagle was trying to hit me.
Oh, the eagle. Ah, right. Oh, you told me.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes, and I told you. And
The
now
crow.
we were
Yeah,
now today we read about this blackbird hitting
yeah,
Don Juan, and he protected himself, of course. So it is just a synchronicity of the world. Once you get,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's a confirmation also that, because the power of intent again, because I set my intent, I want to meet Don Juan, and I'm going to
yeah,
meet Don Juan, actually, not I want to, because this is, I said, okay, I'm going to meet Don Juan. How, when, I have no idea. When I've said, okay, I'm going to do the capital R reading and I'm going to meet Don Juan, and see that just before starting this incident happened, and I shared with Sil that, Sil, today this thing happened, and I say
yeah.
thank you
Months away.
to that crow, because I know, I was aware that that crow
Yeah,
actually protected me. uh, and today we just read that story of Don Juan, that okay, the blackbird was trying to kill, and the crow, how it happened, all that. I have experienced that before starting this, but I was aware that we are going to start. Amazing. Amazing.
it is. It is amazing. And you know what? What's more amazing is, crow is obviously a much smaller bird than an eagle.
Oh,
And
yes. Very
and
small
yet
comparison.
it takes on the eagle, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's able to ward off the eagle. And
Exactly.
this is just, there's implications, right? I mean, well, because the crow's smarter, one would assume, and the crow's more fearless, and so on. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they are very
So,
smart. They are very smart.
remind me tomorrow, Beena, when I share, when we start, to share to Elizabeth. I'll remember, but I share the link via messenger to Norma usually, and I'll share it to Elizabeth as well. So Elizabeth's keen to connect. Very cool, very cool,
Oh, yes.
very cool.
So this is the power of intent. And in a confirmation, it's hello from Don Juan, because I actually, because I was walking away from that place, and the crow sat just there, 2, 3 feet away. And when I looked at it and I said, thank you. And I feel, of course, I have no other proof of that. And me and my sister was there. Uh, it was a kind of like that crow accepted. Yeah.
It's a fantastic. Don Juan would say, "What a marvelous omen." It's a fantastic anomaly.
Yes.
Fantastic
Yes.
anomaly. It is saying there's moreness to come. The
Oh, yes.
world does not work the way we think it does.
Yes.
I've said this
And we are
many,
we
many
are
times.
and we are meeting Don Juan. We are not just knowing about
Yeah,
him. We are going to meet him, and we are. So this is
yeah,
this is very interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's very, very powerful. Very, very powerful. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. All right. We'll end it there for today,
Yeah.
and we'll
Yes.
continue tomorrow. Also, I
Yes.
wanted to say, you see why for me all this about the devil's weed and the spoken, all this, it's of no, it's interesting but of no interest. It's interesting
Yes.
but of no interest. Why? Because look at all those steps and details. I cannot possibly duplicate this, right?
Yes.
So it's just not something that I can use. And and again too, it doesn't have an appeal either. So again, we'll see later on how this works, and and we'll
Yeah.
see how this emphasis is a bit misplaced, right? It's there because it needs to be, but that's just columns. So we'll get into it. We'll get into it. It's very fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank
All
you
right.
so
Very
much,
good. Very
everyone.
good.
Thank you so much for joining us. Today we missed the chance to actually see that who joined us on Instagram. Uh, so sorry for that. Uh, we are just we get so involved into this reading. Sorry. That was the only thing. That was the only reason. We were not deliberately ignoring anyone. But whoever joined us, thank you so much for being here with us, and hope to see you guys again. Also, you can watch us recorded on YouTube on Sabastian channel. We can, we will, of course, we are going to share this one also. And just a side note that by just observing this whole exercise, there is a lot to learn from that. I always say that when you are attending any master class, pay attention to the content, but also pay attention that how they are conducting that. That is a real lesson there. And it's especially in this capital R reading process. Yes, the story, the books, and everything is available. It's marvelous. But how we are doing the capital R reading, this is the real key here. To be open, learn to be receptive, learn to actually do the capital R reading. Of course, it is not going to be limited only to books and stories and poetry and other stuff, only written stuff. You will be able, once we learn to do the capital R reading, we can do capital R reading of anyone and anything. And that is the real magic with a skill. Real magic
Oh
with a
yeah.
skill. You
Oh
can
yeah.
acquire
Oh yeah.
any skill if you require any talent, if you really want to, if you learn to do the capital R reading of anything.
We are
So this is so
truly
important
learning
and valuable.
to be to have discernment and to have perception, real
Yes.
perception, to see past things, to see depth, to see moreness, in other words. Right?
Yes.
But all
Yes.
capital reading is all about extracting moreness, all part of Moreness culture, all part of
Exactly.
the practical benefits of Moreness culture. All right,
Exactly.
very cool,
Exactly.
very cool indeed. Very good. All
Thank you
right,
so much for
let me
joining
just
us. We will see you
come.
guys tomorrow.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
tomorrow is Saturday. We will see you guys on Sunday.
yeah. And I just want to say a quick shout out. Uh, Lumna joined on Instagram and also Tatum Fletcher. So very nice, very good to see you again, Tatum. Very cool, very cool. Wonderful, wonderful. Comment, guys, comment. You see, because if you just join, I don't get the notification. But if you make a comment, then in my streaming software, which streams to Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram all simultaneously, then it shows there, and then I see that, and I can respond. Right. So ask questions, comment. We're keen to know. We're keen to know. We love comments. We love comments. We love questions. So very cool. But glad to see you here. Very cool. And also, that if you want to, watch them again, for some reason I can't save it as a post. It's only live in Instagram, but they are saved on my YouTube channel. So just go Soul Sabastian on YouTube, you find them. They all are there. The first one, each one, they all named, and then you can go through all of them if you want to. Right? If you want to follow through the entire series and reading. And if you miss one, you can catch it up there, right? So this is very helpful, the YouTube. All right, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. All right, bye-bye,
Yes.
everybody. Bye-bye,
Okay.
bye-bye. See you
Bye,
all
everyone.
tomorrow.
See you guys Sunday.
Sunday, not tomorrow. Yes, Sunday. All right.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
bye for now.